Hey, HorseCenter fans, the party here in Louisville, Kentucky's already started, and Matt and I are talking picks for future stars Friday at Churchill Downs. What are we going to do today, Matt?
We got picks and plays. We're going to run through all 5 of the Friday future stars races, give you our top 3, and we will give you our plays.
We got some very good suggested wagers for you today, folks. Hopefully there's some big scores in there. Enjoy Future Stars Friday. Enjoy the show. Welcome to another edition of HorseCenter, everyone. I am Brian Zipsy, and as always, I have the extra special pleasure of being joined by my co-host to the East Coast. That's Matt Schiffman. How are you today, Matt? And happy Breeders' Cup Week.
Thank you, Brian. I'm very busy getting picks and plays together and getting ready to jump on a plane Thursday so I can hang out with you and all of our friends in Kentucky for the Breeders' Cup.
Absolutely, Matt. The party out here has already started. I guess we have an extra sponsor today on today's show. It's going to be Michter's Straight Rye, but just wanted to let you know the party's already started. So we miss you, but you will be here soon, and that is a great thing. Let's forget about all this personal stuff here, Matt, and let's get to the show. Let's talk Breeders' Cup. We're only 3 days away. Future Stars Friday for the first time ever. That's the format. Friday, there's going to be 5 Breeders' Cup races. Matt, are you ready to roll?
Let's go.
We're going to go in order, folks. We're going to start with the first Breeders' Cup, which is race 5 on Friday at Churchill Downs. It's the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Matt, this is not an easy race by any means. A lot of unknown quantities, both domestic and international. But in the end, my top pick is going to be one of the internationals. I think you like him as well, Soldier's Call.
Yes, Brian, and I think we both have to take our cap off a little bit with this pick to our good friend Jason Mangrum, who you folks might know from Horse Racing Nation also. Jason is one awesome handicapper who I respect tremendously, and we were shooting the breeze about the race, and he said, hey, guys, over in Europe, sometimes these 2-year-olds run against older horses. And I'm like, scratch my head. No, I did not know that. But Jason discovered it, and he saw in the PPs that Soldier's Call ran in a 2-year-old and up race against older horses, against some darn good older horses, Brian, and ran fast.
Yeah, Matt, and in fact, it has been done in America. I'm going back many moons, but 2-year-old, especially in a sprint race, 2-year-olds did run against older horses. And in Europe, it's still done. It's not unusual. They get a lot of weight, and going 5-6 furlongs. 2-year-olds, 2-year-olds can compete against 3-year-olds and even older. So yeah, Soldier's Call is coming off a very good performance, getting weight, but very good performance against top older sprinters over in Europe. He's also got a lot of really good races on his resume, so I think there's a lot to like with Soldier's Call. We're talking all about Soldier's Call in here, Matt. I think there's a plethora of horses who could win this race. It's really a wide open race, but he does stand out just a little bit on the Euro side. And then I'll tell you what, for my other pick, since it is so wide open, I'm going to throw in 2 long shots in here. One of many from the Wesley Ward Brigade, and that's Stillwater Cove. I think Stillwater Cove is a filly who has run very good races. She won a stakes race at Saratoga sprinting. She stretched out in the Natama at Woodbine and got short a little bit late, but it was a good performance. Now she cuts back. I think she's a player. And the experienced European filly, Queen of Bermuda. So I got 2 fillies in the 2nd and 3rd spot, both long shots. Queen of Bermuda is a filly that I think can rally, and she's also run some very good races over in Europe.
Sounds good, Brian. My other 2, I'm in the number 2 spot. I've got Shang for Wesley Ward. Wesley Ward, of course, known for his 2-year-old work and particularly on the turf. And Shang is 2 for 2, and including a win at Royal Ascot. In my 3rd spot, I've got a horse that'll be a little bit of a price named Bulletin. That's a Todd Pletcher. that debuted at Gulfstream Park in a stakes race, Brian, and ran a big one. I know there's a difference, Gulfstream, Breeders' Cup, but an unusual move for Pletcher. So what the heck in this wide open race?
Yeah, and the Juvenile Turf Sprint, we haven't seen this one before, Matt. It really collected an interesting group of horses. I'm against both of yours. Shang has, I think he'll get some money. He hasn't run since Royal Ascot, and there's been some questions about how good he is right now, but certainly a lot of speed. And I think the Pletcher horse you mentioned has a lot of speed too. So kind of hoping those two horses go at it and sets the table for some ralliers. Matt, I did start one of my suggested wagers. Matt and I are going to be doing some of our favorite wagers. These won't be all our bets by any means, but some of our favorite wagers that we've identified early for you HorseCenter fans. So hopefully they connect, and hopefully they connect for really nice prices. So Matt, I am going 4 deep in this race to start a $1 pick 3. And I'm using Soldier's Call as my top pick. Stillwater Cove, Queen of Bermuda, the 2 long shot fillies that I like a little bit. I'm also throwing in Strike Silver because the Mark Cassie colt impressed me last time when he was way farther back than he wanted to be and still got up at Keeneland. Then I'm going to go with that pick 3 into the next 2 races that we're going to talk about here. Newspaper of Record and Concrete Rose will be my only 2 in the 6th race, which is the Juvenile Fillies Turf. I think the Americans stand out there. And then I'm going 4 deep and looking for some rally a little bit in the Juvenile Fillies with Serengeti, Empress, Restless Rider, Cassie's Dream, a long shot, and Sipican Harbor, the spin-away winner. So that's a 4x2 by 4 pick 3, folks. That'll only cost you $32 for a $1 pick 3. Matt, let's start talking about the Juvenile Fillies Turf. I already told you basically my top 2. What are you looking for in this one?
Brian, I certainly like those 2 horses also. And as you mentioned, the Juvenile Fillies Turf is a race that the Americans have really had a stranglehold on in recent years. And of course, that has a lot to do with Chad Brown, who has trained the winner of this race 3 out of 4 times. So my top pick is Newspaper of Record. Could be a super talented horse in here. Has got tactical speed. Everything I like in here. I like Concrete Rose also. I have as my number 3 pick to possibly pick up the pieces. And I'm throwing in a Euro at the number 2 spot, a Euro named East, who is 2 for 2 big wins in France, coming from off the pace. You're expecting a lot of rain down there the next couple days, so we're likely to have a turf course with a lot of cut in it. So I'm throwing a Euro in the midst of that.
Absolutely, man. I like your thinking a lot in this race. Newspaper Record, the one knock, it's hardly a knock, but the one question I had about her was both of her just fantastic first 2 races in New York, just fantastic, overpowering, dominating wins on the grass for this Chad Brown filly. Came on yielding turf, but it looks like we're going to get some sort of yielding turf here, whether it's maybe more so Friday than Saturday. So I think that only plays into her hands. I think she'll be a clear favorite in here, and she's the one to beat. Concrete Rose, though, I've really been impressed with both of her races. A sprint at Saratoga where she had trouble and still was able to win for Rusty Arnold, and then a real nice win here at Keeneland. So I think Concrete Rose is legitimate as well, and I think the Americans do stand over this field a little bit, which is probably the only turf race that I will say that about here at the Breeders' Cup. My Euro, I went with a Euro in the 3rd spot, and the one I chose was Lily's Candle, and a lot of the things you were saying about Ease. She's a little bit more experienced, though, and I think she's getting better. So Lily's Candle's been a mile, and I think she has a shot if one of the 2 Americans don't do it. But I think it's going to be an American race here, Matt, just like you.
Sounds good.
All right, next we're going to stick with the Fillies. We're going to go to the Juvenile Fillies, and Matt, this is a nice field. A lot of good fillies coming from different places here. And in the end, and you saw it a little bit with my early pick 3, in the end, I decided to play against the speed And that means I'm not using Bellafina, the likely favorite, or Jaywalk.
Brian, I completely agree with your thinking. Right here in my notes, I have down that the Juvenile Fillies is a race that is loaded with speed, and I want closers in here. I'm going to, I am still going to use Jaywalk, Brian, because I was very, very impressed with her win in the Frizette, because I've got a feeling with Joel Rosario in the saddle, and he's a crafty rider, and he knows when to try and change a horse's style and come from off the pace a little bit. I have a feeling in here that Rosario is going to be rating Jaywalk a little bit, and that she's going to stalk in there. So I'm still using Jaywalk. I've got Jaywalk in the top spot. I've got Sipacan Harbor in the second spot. Beat Restless Rider earlier in the summer. Coming in from Gary Contessa. And let me tell you what, Brian, Gary Contessa at the Belmont Fall Meeting is about as hot as a trainer can possibly be anywhere in the country. So he puts a horse out there. I'm taking a second look. And I got Restless Rider in the third spot.
Yeah, and we should note that the rider of Sipacan Harbor actually chose Jaywalk. Rosario chose Sipacan to get off Sipacan Harbor, the Spinaway winner, and to ride Jaywalk in there. So whatever that means, that kind of goes along with your pick as Jaywalk is the top spot. But I think the Kentucky Fillies really are better anyway, Matt, but I think the race sets up for them more. I don't think Jaywalk is going to all of a sudden sit third or fourth. I think she's going to be out there, and there is other speed, but Bellafina and Jaywalk definitely showing speed. Serengeti Empress, on the other hand, has shown speed in her races too, but Tom Amos has been she's a little more experienced. Tom Amos has been getting her off the lead in the workouts here, and I just have a feeling that she's the one that can sit off the lead a little bit and make a move. She's my top pick. I can't get past how good she's been in Kentucky in her last two races, Ellis Park and here at Churchill Downs. So Serengeti Empress, I think, is the one to beat, and she's probably no better than the second choice. I do think Bellafina, the horse that both Matt and I are throwing out, will be the favorite, which is a good thing because I think she'll be tired as they straighten out here at Churchill Downs. Restless Rider, she can rally, she can run at Churchill Downs. We've seen it a couple times now. I think she's got a big shot in here, coming off a win at Keeneland, but she's 2 for 2 at Churchill Downs. Sipacan Harbor, I like as well because she can come off the pace as we saw in the Spinaway. I actually wanted to get my bomb in there, though, and that's Cassie's Dream, or Barkley Tag filly that I think is on the improve, and I think will be running late. So I did throw Sipacan Harbor in as my fourth horse in that pick 3 that I gave out, but I'm going to go with Serengeti Empress 1, Restless Rider 2, and Cassie's Dreamer 3 in the Juvenile Fillies.
Brian, I have one of my Breeders' Cup plays to share with the folks starting in this race. The last 3 Future Stars races are also the beginnings of 2-day daily doubles, which are taking a little of a different form this year with the Future Stars Friday arrangement. So this race, which is race 7, the Juvenile Fillies, is leading into the Distaff, which is an interesting concept. So I'm going to do a daily double in here in the Distaff. And of course, we'll talk more about the Distaff when we get to Saturday's races. I am going to use Jaywalk, Sipacan Harbor, Restless Rider, and I'm going to throw Bellafina in there with Abel Tasman in the Distaff.
First off, Matt, I love these bets. It's an interesting bet. It's a race that I'm probably going to dip my toe in as well. In fact, I'm sure I will because it's fun. But you don't have Serengeti Empress in that daily double?
I don't at this point, but who knows what will happen when my wallet is bulging in my pocket on Friday, Brian.
There you go. All right. So that's the Juvenile Fillies. Let's move back to the males, Matt, and back to the turf course. Interestingly, 3 of the 5 Breeders' Cup Juvenile races this year are on the grass course. Matt and I are both predicting more of a yielding type of turf here at Churchill Downs on Friday for sure. And Matt, that was a big reason why I ended up with a European top two. Actually, I like Line of Duty best, but I respect Anthony Van Dyck. Excuse me. Anthony Van Dyck has run against really good horses over there. So Line of Duty, Anthony Van Dyck, and I threw in one American for third, and that's the Curlin rallying undefeated Curlin that won at Keeneland last time. His name is Current.
Okay, Brian, and I should say that the Juvenile Turf has been a race that Europeans have done much better in. I'm not sure why, they haven't done well in the Juvenile Fillies Turf, but in the Juvenile Turf with the boys, the Europeans have done very well in here. I, too, am going with Line of Duty, Charlie Appleby, 2 big wins on top. I'm looking for a little bit of price with my second pick. My second pick is Uncle Benny. Uncle Benny is a horse that I think is going to be a good price because when people are looking at their PPs, they're just going to see 2 sprint races. But Uncle Benny is coming from the barn of Jason Service, and this horse is bred to go 2 turns. So even though those first couple were sprints, this one I think can get 2 turns and is going to be a good price because of that. I, too, like Current. I've got him in the 3rd position. Again, we've got a 2-day daily double starting here. Same concept. Juvenile Turf heading into the Turf on Saturday. And I've got a 2-day daily double ticket here with several horses from the Juvenile Turf. Line of Duty, Uncle Benny, Current, Anthony Van Dyck, 40 under, and Opry, all with Enable.
Interesting. Okay, there's a couple in there that I think that might be dangerous, Matt. The horse that Current just barely beat last time at Keeneland comes to mind, but I'm glad you did include Anthony Van Dyck because I'll tell you what, out of any of the 2-year-olds that are coming over from Europe, he's the one that's raced against the best horses over there, and I think even with the outside post, he'll beat that, but I think Anthony Van Dyck is definitely a horse to watch. I'm also glad you landed on Line of Duty. We both like Line of Duty. He has some nice odds on the morning line, so hopefully that carries over to the actual odds at race time because I think, as we agree, Line of Duty has a big shot in here. All right, Matt, I think the biggest of the races on Friday is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. It leads into Kentucky Derby Dreams. I think the Juvenile Fillies this year might be an overall stronger race, but the Juvenile is a race that just is important for a lot of reasons, and we're going to end it on Friday with the Juvenile. Matt, I am a sucker for horses that can make up ground, that can rally. I love the way Shug's lightly raced Code of Honor did it last time in the Champagne to rally from second after a horrid start. He's my top pick in here.
Yes, Brian, that doesn't surprise me that he's your top pick in there. But once again, I feel like the Juvenile is going to play the same kind of way that we said for the Juvenile Fillies. I think there's a lot of speed in there. And once again, I'm looking for closers. I like Code of Honor also, but Brian, I knew you were going to put Code of Honor on top. So instead, I'm going for a little bit of a bigger price in here. I'm going for the other Chad Brown in here. I put Standard Deviation on top. Standard Deviation is a Curlin, ran a big race, got way behind, made up a lot of ground to finish 4th in there. I think Standard Deviation is going to be flying at the end in this speed-filled race. I got Code of Honor 2nd, and I've got Game Winner 3rd. Joel Rosario is up, and I think Joel is a good enough rider to maybe rate him a little bit so that he's not going to get stuck up in the pace in there. I'm also starting another one of the 2-day daily double plays in here. This is the Juvenile, following the theme, of course, going to the Classic. So in here, I've got a few horses from the Juvenile, and I'm going to use a few horses from the Classic also because it's so wide open, looking for some big ones. In the Juvenile, I am going to use Standard Deviation, Code of Honor, and game winner, those top three, with, in the classic, Yoshida, Thunder Snow, Catholic Boy, Mind Your Biscuits, and West Coast. That's 15 combinations. Folks, play them for as much money as you want. Play them for $1, play them for $2, play them for $10 if you want.
Awesome. Awesome, Matt. I like it. There are some horses I like that aren't on yours, but I like that bet, and I wish you good luck there. I also have a bet in this race as well. But first, I'll get to a little bit more about my top three. Code of Honor, I said, was my number one. Game Winner, listen, Game Winner is the horse to beat. Game Winner, Bob Baffert Barn, has really looked good out in California. He's undefeated in 3 races. He can stalk the pace. I'm hoping, like you are, that the pace is fast and it weakens Game Winner just a little bit, or maybe he's not quite as good as Churchill Downs. But having said that, I couldn't leave him off my list. So he's number 2 as the favorite. My third horse, you know, I really had a hard time because I too like Standard Deviation, and I really had a hard time leaving him off my top 3, and I will play him in the race for sure. But my third horse is an absolute bomb, Matt. I'm thinking that we could need triple digits on the tote board to see what his true odds are in this race. But I really think Derby Date has a shot in here. Derby Date is a Dwayne Lucas horse. He's had some long shots in juvenile Fillies races before. I just like the way this horse is progressing. He's thrown him into the fire early in his career, but he's getting better. And I saw a lot of things I liked in that Keeneland race. He certainly faded out late after the speed horse kind of took off again. But Derby Date had trouble, made a huge move to get into contention wide, and then, as I said, he weakened. A little bit more improvement here at Churchill Downs for Dwayne. I'm thinking 90-1 on Derby Date. I had to throw him in my top 3, Matt, over Standard Deviation, who I also do like. So my play in here is a very simple bet. Like Matt, I'll say the same thing. You can bet for whatever amount of money you want, but my bet was just a $2 exacta box, a simple bet. Code of Honor, I'm hoping he's the third choice, just like it says on the morning line. No worse than that. Game Winner, the favorite, I'm going to throw in just because I got some odds with my other horses, and that's Derby Date and Standard Deviation. I'm hoping we get 8-10-1 on him as well. So hopefully we can get Derby Date into that exacta. $2 exacta box with 4 horses cost you $24. And if Derby Date wins this thing, you can expect a very nice exacta.
Hey, Brian, makes sense. There's nobody that's won more Breeders' Cup races than the coach, Dwayne Lucas.
Yeah, Derby Date has yet to win a race. That's part of the reason we'll get 90-1. But hey, I think he's got a shot, and at those odds, I'm ready to put a few dollars on him.
Just a couple bucks.
There you go. All right, folks, that's our juvenile show, our juvenile showcase, Friday's Stars of the Future. Nice concept by Breeders' Cup, and we are, of course, happy to. I guess we were sponsored by Michter's Rye today, Matt, but we're also, of course, sponsored by the best contest site out there, Derby Wars. Matt, do you have a closing shot for the Future Stars show?
Well, folks, Future Stars show, we're also going to do a show on the Saturday picks, so make sure you watch that. And Brett Workman, of course, will be putting together both shows. So thank you, Brett.
Thank you to Brett. Thank you for watching. As always, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel here at Horse Racing Nation. Good luck on Friday. And like Matt said, we'll have another show for the Saturday races.